everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne. And since I had blood work this morning in the hospital of our lives, we have Master Surgeon Quindy, Janitor Justin, just sounds so good. I think we're gonna make John. What do we make John? Man, I'm just gone this morning, guys. It's been a weird morning. But Janitor Justin immediately sprung to mind. Does John get to be like the nurse? Does he get to be like the prep nurse? Like, I'm sure he's got a great beard side manner. The janitor. But then what's Justin? If you don't make Justin the janitor, like, you know. Sorry. Not sorry. That's just my brain this morning. Oof. And I'm just the patient at this point. Just med me up and watch me go. There we go. So hi everybody. How's it going? All right. I have brain cells. I'm just not sure what order they're in. It's like what does it James Joyce once said is like his friend came in and he was like lying, on the table in agony because he, the friend is like, how did the writing go? And he's like, it went terribly. And he's like, well, how many words did you write, James? And he's like, 7. And his friend is like, but wait, for you, that's good. And James Joyce is like, but I don't know what order they go in. So I'm like that. I have brain cells. I just don't know what order they go in this morning. So hi, everybody. Whoa, bird. What was that? Bird, you're not supposed to hit my window. Whoa, those birds were just like freaking out. Sorry. I'm being dive bombed, guys. It was a small bird, but I heard the ping. It did fly off, however. So one hopes that it didn't hit the window too hard. Sometimes our big windows in the other room, they will try to actually fly in through them because they're just huge, transparent windows, and it looks like they can, right? Poor birds. So bird-brained. You have under attack. This weird yellow thing in the sky is going to be here all week and it's scaring you. I have friends like that, except they, have that sentiment in Texas where they really shouldn't live if they're scared of the yellow thing in the sky. Although they're rightfully scared. In Texas, you are rightfully scared of the yellow thing in the sky. Yeah, the bird goes blurf, right, exactly. Alrighty, we have a centaur. Woohoo, I took him off of the block. Off the block. The block. However, my initial plan to raise him up a little bit on some cork is not gonna work. So we're gonna maybe just use the base, because I don't want to put him on a bigger base than this, because the pie plate base is just too darn big. Like the pie plate is like immense. Like look how big that is. Like, and look how boring it is. Like you can even see it when you look at it that this is kind of like a lot of ground for him to be on. He's smaller than the base. And that's not like, for a big model like this, that's not really what you want. He looks dynamic when he's on his own base because that base is smaller than he is. So I was going to stick with that kind of thing, to have him extend over the edges of the base. When you've got a large model, if you can get it so that the model does extend over the edges of whatever basing you're doing, it's going to it's going to give you a more dynamic base. But then, since he really, he fits on here almost perfectly. He fits inside the rim of the thing. So if I tried to put cork down, it would just make this edge that I had to deal with that I didn't really have any area to landscape in. So I was just not liking the look of that. So I think we're going to stick to the regular base and we're going to green stuff around the edge. We might get to some of that today. I'm going to try to finish up all of his little painty parts though. Let's see. Yes, dead tomato plants. Sorry, Twistoma. I have a very bad reaction to them. So for me, tomatoes are the enemy. Evil tomatoes. So yeah, pepper plants much more acceptable. Oh, fledgling birds. Although I feel that because Texas, I tried to have an herb garden in Texas. I tried to have bonsai trees in Texas. I tried is the operative phrase that you'll notice whenever I refer to living things in Texas. At least planted things. Alrighty. So I'm going to glue this guy down so I have something to hold him on. Oh, come on, glue. Seriously, glue? Seriously? Do you need a Poke Tool too? Maybe I'll try just it without this nozzle. Yeah, that'll work. Boop-a-doo. Come here, Centaur. Splook. I want you to... Okay, of course, it's got a freaking recess. What are you thinking, Reaper? We need to, like, glue these things down. Now I need to slide its, like, side base through the glue and get it everywhere. Ah, Reaper. Seriously, man. Seriously. Alright. I'm going to more or less center this on here because I want to be able to blend it in. And if you get a little super glue on the edge, honestly, I just usually just kind of wipe it off real quick before it sets with a finger. And make sure you don't stick your finger to anything because then you're going to get stuck. There we go. That'll set just nicely. Reaper, yes. Reaper, why are you putting a recess on the bottom of this Centaur base? Why? Just to save yourself half a penny worth of plastic. Yeah, Reaper! Well, you could fill it in, but that would take time and material. Like, I'd have to go get my stupid paste. My modeling paste probably would be the fastest thing. And then I'd have to, like, goop it in there. And then I'd have to smooth it out. And then I'd have to wait for it to set. And then I'd have to sand it. And then I'd have to put it on the base. Not ideal. I mean, normally, okay, it's not a big deal. I just, like, put my nice happy smear of glue down and then noticed that it was completely ineffectual. You know, maybe that's my day, guys. Maybe I've got my happy things all lined up for today and they're just going to turn out to be completely ineffectual. I blame blood work. Ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah, Quindy. Yeah, Quindy's in my mood. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but I would use, I have these, I would have used like some kind of sculpting compound before Olfin, probably green stuff, but green stuff is expensive and that's not an optimal use for it. So really just, you know, apply glue around the edge. However, if you do want to fill it in for some reason, I use these days, I have Liquitex modeling paste. I like the flexible version, but I've also got the straight up version, and they're good fillers. I bet they were, Kerniko. It's a plaything. It's our new plaything. Yeah, I don't know if these are young birds, like, running around, running into my windows or what, but it could be, I guess. They're probably all wrestling for space, right? Because now we've got the young ones and the old ones are still, like, entrenched in this neighborhood, and the young ones are trying to figure out where they can fit into the ecosystem. All right, so speaking of that modeling paste, I actually used it last night to kind of give a platform to Kitty. Oh no, was there extra glue over here that I missed? I hate it when there's extra glue that I miss. Just gonna go around this base real quick and smooth anything in. I think we're okay though. So I made a little platform for Kitty. And I just set him down in it. I could break him off really easily, but the modeling paste is essentially giving him, I want to essentially have him be on like a stone dungeon step. So I'm going to put green stuff over this, but I started with a piece of cork and I went over it with the modeling paste to fill in all the gaps. So just to block in, boop, just to block in all, because the cork's all crumbly, right? So I wanted to put him on like a dungeon step, and then I can do more dungeon tiles down here. So I decided I wanted him to be in a den of evil, looking for evil to slay. So, but yeah, so I actually used my side cutters to trim off small bits of his base so that he would fit, and I could integrate, because his basic base has stonework kind of sketched into it. So I can work off that and make it a step in a dungeon. And yeah, it should work pretty well. I'll smooth out the backside here with green and fill it in and make it more like it's just a neutral backside. And I can paint it black, and then I can do the front as a dungeon stair. So that is what I decided to do for Kidda. I decided he is a paladin, so I raised him up a little bit on his base. I didn't want to put him on flat. I could have just put him on flat and sculpted a dungeon floor. That's totally acceptable. But often, if I want a model to stand out a little bit more, I will raise it up just either on a stone or a step or a something. And on these little bases, you don't have a lot of room for that. But it is something that you can usually do with the more narrow bases that the Dark Heaven models have on them, or the Bones models. It's pretty easy to have a gap in front that lets you do a little bit of scenic landscaping. So that's what we did for Kidda, and of course I'll also be gluing him down, although the green stuff will probably be enough. I'm not sure about the adhesive qualities of this modeling paste, but it seems to be pretty solid. Like when I wiggle him, there's no wiggle. I think I'd have to try to break him off. So... Oh, do you couldn't? It's so simple though. I always feel like I all these people like Michael Proctor doing these beautiful display bases, and I'm just like, yeah, you know, throw some cork on it and some putty, and now we'll put some grass and rocks on it. Done. Because I just want a little something. I just don't want a lot, right? I just want a little something, and that's why Derek Schubert, simple but effective. Yeah, okay. That's fair, and it's something everybody can do. I guess my bases are very approachable because it makes you feel like you too can do this, and that's worth something. So yeah. So essentially, that's what we'll be doing when we get to Kidda later this week. But yeah, so I'm pretty happy with my little cake. It's an iced cake right now, isn't it? He's standing on an iced cake. Oh, cork is totally underrated. Yeah. And having different thicknesses of it, guys, is really useful. So like, I think this is about a 1/4 inch. What do we got? Yeah, it's about a 1/4 inch thickness on this piece of cork. And they make even thinner stuff I'm going to try to get some of. So cork and plastic hard are your best like builders and fillers unless you're doing big structures, and then styrofoam can come in. But for small stuff, cork and plastic hard, and then these, like I said, these modeling pastes are really useful. Like this modeling paste, this Liquitex basic modeling paste, not the flexible, is... I feel a lot like plaster in how it sets up. And on bigger stuff, you would use plaster as a possible player. So yeah, it gives me that ability to fill and kind of quickly build up stuff or smooth or do whatever to disguise the cork and give it a different texture. If you wait for it to set up just a little bit, you can also press it. You can press mold it. You got to kind of watch the timing on it but you could use a texture tool and you know, do it. You just need to wait for it to set a little bit so it's not quite so goopy. It's not as good as like using a press mold with green stuff, but if you're just looking for texture, like stone texture or whatever, then yeah, that works. But yeah, so cork, this is our little, actually this is the little piece of cork that I used, is right here. So this stuff is very useful, and then the big chunky stuff for big stonework is really, really useful. And then I've acquired some plaster and some rock molds for even bigger stuff, but I don't know if we'll get to that in stream so much. Alrighty. That said, boink. Yes, cats are very clever things. Oh, let's see here. So I'm starting to get like, I'm excited and nervous about the puppy trip. Like, let's, what are we going to do today? Well, I'll chat while I do things. Let's do the highlights on the reddish leather up here. That's one of the few things that's left. And I'm going to use our old friend, an old friend we haven't used in a while, a couple of old friends. Let's use orange brown and burnt orange. Both of these are very good for highlighting reddish or brown leathers. Where's my ruddy leather? There it is. I like blackened brown to shade ruddy leather, and I like to mix these guys in to highlight it. I think a lot of people don't realize how utilitarian the orange, burnt orange and orange brown are for this. They're very, very good leather highlighters for any darker or reddish leather. Obviously, burnt orange is they could make their own triad, actually, if you look at them. If you could find, probably Harvest Brown would be the shadow, 9200. And then you could just work up and essentially get that burnt orange color. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to probably do my first color to be 1 drop of ruddy leather with 3 of orange brown. 3 or 4. We'll try 3 and see. There. But yeah, I'm starting to get excited, and also like I've been nervous about the puppy trip because it's just like, man, it's an odyssey, guys. I have to fly into Minneapolis, drive 3.5 hours to Bridget's house, fall over, wake up in the morning, test 8 puppies, which is going to take all day, sit down and do evaluations, write down all of the data, talk with Bridget about placements. Like, it's going to take all freaking day. Like, we easily, for a big litter, we easily push 18-hour days with these puppy evaluations. I earned my keep. Let's just put it that way. Where did my other... I lost a pokey tool. It must have gone on the floor and I missed it. Oh well. I have a backup. Oh, there it is. There's my other bit. One of my pokey tools is kind of dipped and polished and has that cool dark look, which I like. That means it's stealth. And also, Kerniko, about knitting, I would like to say it takes too long to weave in our yarn tails. I have many yarn tails in my striped scarf, and it's taking forever. Like, I wanted that ugly scarf to be done so that I could work on my amigurumi. I need to make a sheep. And then I need to make whatever toy I make for the puppy. Maybe I'll make a bear. Because the puppy has squeaky ball, but I also want to make the puppy another toy, a stuffed toy. Because I can. I have this ability now. Now I know what all you like sewing and knitting people have been like on about all these years, where you're just like, I could make that. Oh, it's just terrible, man. And then you don't. You don't have the time. It's terrible, though. Like, I'm looking at every dog toy in the store, and I used to get excited about dog toy shopping, and now I'm just like, can I make that? But yeah, it takes a long time to weave in those yarn tails. I was not prepared. I thought, oh, I'm done now. Yay. And no, I'm not done. I'm still weaving in yarn tails. I'm going to push and finish it tonight. But I've been trying to spend half of every evening I spend an hour on my painting. And then I spend, or last night I spent an hour doing base work. And then I try to spend at least an hour or 45 minutes on my knitting or crocheting, or in this case, yarn tail weaving. So we'll see how this works. Yeah, we'll see how the puppy does with opening cabinets and stuff. I may need to get locks. We did need to get locks for our old Shilohs. But these cupboards are a lot more flush than my old cupboards were, so we're gonna see how it goes. We'll see how much of a little ninja our pupster is. Alrighty, and you know what? I'm gonna do one more. I'm gonna do one more highlight just so I can just start and continue. So this one over to here, and I'm gonna drop some burnt orange into that because burnt orange has a lot of white in it. Temperature scarf, 2 lines of different colors. Oh, I bet the tidying up is a total pain. Oh my god. 2 lines of different colors. Oh, yeah, I just think about all those tails and I'm just like, oh. Wow. That's a labor of love. You have to really want the outcome. I'm about to start. I need to finish the sheep because the sheep is my current project. But after the scarf. But then I want to do a much lighter weight scarf that's more... because the first one I did was wool. Straight up wool, and it's heavy. That's ugly scarf. Ugly scarf is a straight up heavy, sock you in the face, it's freaking cold outside wool scarf. Which I was happy with. But now I've got that awesome like color shifting yarn, which I think is a blend. I think it's a wool blend. And I'm going to do a much lighter weight pretty scarf. Still stripes, but... Alrighty, so we've got some of this. I'm probably going to need a little bit more water in that highlight. And that's not as light as I wanted it. So I'm actually going to grab bleached linen and pop a dot in there. Furry in the cupboard. Oh, man. Yeah, that would kind of flip me out. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I told David last night as we were going to bed. I'm like, well, hon, Now you're going to finally get the experience of raising a child. Happily for you, it's just a puppy, so it'll grow up a lot faster. It's going to be an eye-opener for David, I think. There we go. Now I feel like we're a little bit better. That's funny, Quindy. Yeah, that's the whole thing, like, where they learn as kittens that they're gonna get your attention instantly for doing bad stuff, and then they just keep doing it because it's a habit. It's what they do to get your attention. That's why I'm gonna be teaching a default behavior to my puppy, which is to say, if you want my attention, then sit nicely. Then you will get my attention. And a treat. So I'm just going to go in and do quick highlights. Let's get this closer and let's get this out of frame so you can actually see it. I'm going to go in and just with these little bumpy leather straps, it's kind of a wrapped edge on this breastplate and on down here. So I'm just going to take my first color and just pretty much hit all of the little bumps. And if you're not too precise, I mean, the bumps have varying degrees of like whether they're really deeply sculpted or not. So you can fudge it. Trust me here. The sculpt is pretty rough on these bumps, and whenever you've got a rough sculpt, you can take advantage of that by not needing to be so persnickety. When you're dealing with a model that's very finely sculpted, where all of the details are very immaculate, that's when you have to actually put on your OMG try-hard cap and hit all of the things as they are sculpted. But when something is kind of rough and organic, like the Centaur's gear, you can fudge it a lot. Labor of love. Yeah, I'll have to look up the temperature scarf. I haven't ever looked it up. I assume that it goes from like, I mean, does it make a gradient in the end? Or I haven't ever looked at one, but I'll look. What I want to start doing are cardigans and shawls, I think. Because I'm always reaching for a flannel or something when it gets cold out, or even when it gets moderately chilly out. Oh no, I blurped on the beard. Grab some water, scrub that off. Your cats are unique. You definitely have a diva there. A little furry diva. So now that the puppies are 6 weeks, their personalities are really coming out. And there's things I like about each of them, each of the girls. Like Pike, the black puppy. I really like her independence. Like, I wanted a more aloof temperament, and she seems like she's got one. But I don't know about, like, you know, how much like a Shiloh she's going to look. Since this is an outcross litter, we also have to choose breeding stock based on how close they are to our breed. So we'll see that more at the evaluation. And then Keyleth, the sable girl, I really like how people focused she is, and she's quiet. Like, she's quiet, and she'll just watch Bridget and try to figure out what makes this human tick. And I love that kind of like human-focused, engaged temperament too. That's another one of my faves. But she's a lot more social butterfly. Like, she definitely would be, like, she's all over the people. Like, she wants nothing more than love. So, and I'm afraid, I'm concerned there that she might be too soft of a temperament for me. Because I'm a pretty, like, you know, like, forceful personality. And sometimes when you get a dog that's very sensitive and you pair it with my personality, they just get softer. They just get to the point where they'll melt into a puddle. And I don't want that. Only toilet singing can relay. Very diva. Very diva. So I'm a little worried about that, but we'll see. And then, of course, Vex, who's been my favorite since she was born pretty much. Is definitely, I think she's gonna be, and this is good and not good. I think she's gonna be the puppy that that during the testing essentially flips you the middle finger and does what she wants, which I love that temperament. I love that puppy, that independent screw you puppy, but I have to think of David. David may not enjoy that temperament. Those puppies are usually like brave and courageous and like take everything in strides. So that's like, they can very much become bomb-proof dogs. But they are the puppy that's going to test you. And I love that. Like, I really do. And usually it goes well with my personality, but David's never had a puppy before, and I don't know that he needs to go so hardcore so quickly. And these are all guesses, so they may not actually be how the puppies are at the litter evaluation, but they're all very different. They're each of the girls is a very different person, like a very different puppy. A cat, then. Yeah, kinda. Except she does. The thing with Vex, though, is that she's trying to figure out how to game you. And so she's like when Bridget was teaching them the clicker stuff, when she figured out, like, she would naturally kind of sit to take the treat. And so when she wanted another treat, she sat. And this was after less than 30 seconds of training. So she's wicked smart. And she's trying to figure out how she can game you. And that's actually good for the kind of training I want to do, because I'm willing to reinforce that behavior and say, oh, you want something? Sit. Always sit. And then let's all work around that, So she's definitely paying attention. And I don't know, I guess a cat that is rather cat-like in some ways. My cats have always been very dog-like, though. Like, I've had very, very dog-like cats in general. Because I had a Siamese, an Abyssinian, and a half Siamese. I think I've only ever had one regular cat. Upsetty spaghetti Gretty. That's awesome. I love that name. But yeah, so we'll see. I'm very interested. It's like the way we do like puppy placement is so different, like, from what people are used to, where they just like, they walk in and they go, oh, I want that one, But we're looking at conformation, we're looking at temperament and how well it will suit the lifestyle of the person and the family, right? So it's a whole different game. Like, I wish all dogs got this start. That was what Bridget, last time Bridget had a litter, she it was a very small litter, and she wanted her pup to have her pup to have more litter mates. So she adopted two, I think they were pit bull mixes from the shelter who were essentially newborns that had lost their mom. And she raised those newborns alongside her own Shiloh litter. And at the end, like, we even did the puppy evaluation on them. And she was like, she said it brought home to her that she wished all dogs had the kind of good start that we give our puppies. Yeah, those are smart cat breeds. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I like softer drapey stuff, so I've got to figure out like what yarns will give me that. But I have my handy local yarn shop, so once I permit myself to go back to that, I'm not permitted to do it until I use up my current yarn, guys. I'm trying so hard. I'm being such a good Anne. Also, I'm like fretting about the money because like the puppy trip is going to be expensive. Worth it, but oh my gosh, expensive. Like, pretty much sucks up a giant clump of my savings that then I have to painstakingly save back. And again, worth it for the pupper, but yeah, just a lot. Money stress is the worst stress. She's the alpha knitter. Okay, that's Twisted Oma's official title now, everybody, just so you know. Kuroniko is Queen of the Kitties. Twisted Oma is Master Knitter, or Alpha Knitter. Quindi is the goddess of search, or the goddess of question answering. All right, so again, just going through and just hitting those little edges. And it just gives you a little extra detail. Like, the point here is not to make this edge stand out at all. The point is to just give it a little bit of attention so that you actually paid attention to it. Like, you can see the texture. Because to just leave it is like, I base coated that, right? We want to do a little bit more than that. We just don't want it all to like jump out and punch you in the face. We just want it to be a little bit so that you can see, oh yeah, we paid attention to that. We got those details to come out. Very nice. And you don't want to go over the top. So do a little bit, but don't do a ton. Now on this strap, I'm going to do a little bit of a weathering brush stroke, which means I'm going to stipple the edge and sometimes do a streak across it to show that the leather is old and worn. And I'm going to kind of fade that out as it goes under the arm because the texture doesn't show up as well in the shadows. And this is a lot like we did the straps on the Knoll Pirate, if you'll recall. Though this guy has bigger straps, so I can actually suggest a little bit more. If you can make them not so much dots, but little dashes, then that looks a little bit more real. But if you can't, just do what you can do. I don't think it's dumb luck, Twisted Oma. I find that I do that with sculpting a lot and conversions. It's more like, it's not dumb luck, but it's just taking your time and figuring your way through it, right? And it's not ideal for some people, but for some of us, it's rewarding to do that. And as long as you take your time, you'll get there. It seems to me that knitting is a lot like that, although you may need to, frog a bunch of stuff and pull it out if you screw up. But it seems to me that it rewards that kind of mindset where you're patient with yourself and you just, kind of go. Like, I can see my progress. The nice thing about Ugly Scarf is that Ugly Scarf is really ugly at one end. And then, like, he's okay for a couple of panels, a few, like maybe 5 panels, and then there's another blorf. But then the entire, like, last 6 or 7 panels is, like, perfect. So I can see my improvement from the ugliest end of Ugly Scarf to the prettiest end of Ugly Scarf, which is really nice. And I think that that's something, too. We always talk about this with miniatures when you're starting in the hobby. And even when, I would say, especially maybe even when you are, like, going kind of and learning some intermediate techniques from being more of a beginner, it's really rewarding to hang on to your stuff. Like, hang on to your beginner stuff. Hang on to your stuff that you did before you learned about layering, like before you learned about blending or anything, hang on to your first lighting effect attempt, hang on to these things because as you paint, you're going to get a better understanding over time. And there's always going to be the model in the future that you do and you just can't believe that you did it for a while. So Ugly Scarf is that for me with this, like, new hobby. There we go. So we'll do a little dash there, and we'll do a little dash over here. So yeah, it's important to keep your kind of what I call your landmark models, and I do that to this day. If I do a model where I feel like it's my best example of X that I've done so far, I'm going to thin down that line. When you do the line all the way across, make sure it's real thin, because these cracks at this scale would not be real thick. But yeah, when I do something that is the best thing that I've done on X, I keep that model, even though normally my impulse would be to just sell it. So that's why, like, I kept Sacrifice, and I also keep, like, first-time award winners. So I kept the Borka because it was my first Grandmaster award this spring. And I kept the Halfling Assassin, even though I was originally going to sell her because she won a Best in Show. Now it's like, well, do I really want to sell that? This is my first Best in Show at Kubla Khan, so I'm going to keep that one. Everything else in the future is fair game, though. But yeah, so when you are learning, if you feel like you do an exceptionally good job on a figure, make sure you keep that figure. Don't strip it and paint over it. Even if later on in your life you're like, oh, I could so do better than that. If you get that feeling later on, then what you want to do is to get another copy of that figure if you can. And if you can't get a copy of that figure because it's like out of print, then get something close. Because you can always, if one mermaid is out of print, you can almost always find a different mermaid. Yeah, if it looks like the picture, it's a success for sure. Yeah, but lopsided shawls can be fun. I don't know. I like lopsided, ugly things. I am embracing my terribleness as a beginning knitter. It's nice to be terrible at something again. Like, I feel like it's because, and I say that without irony, I actually mean that, because when you're starting at a hobby, and when you've been in the hobby for a while, but you're like starting to like concentrate on how to get a little better, that's the most exciting time, because you get to see progress. You get to feel that accomplishment. Like, there's that definite sense of like awesome and accomplish when you do a new technique and it looks okay, right? And you're like, ooh, and that was the first time. The next time I do it's going to be even better. Oh, so oh yeah, a few decades without the hobby, huh? Well, welcome, Jason. Welcome. I'm here every weekday morning, unless I'm on vacation or going to pick up a new puppy, which I will be in a couple weeks. But yeah, otherwise I'm here every morning. Come on, hang out and ask questions. Oh, yeah. Okay. Physical therapy. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, totally lucky. Now it's like, haha, I have to paint miniatures. It's my therapy. That's awesome. We all use it for therapy of various types. But yeah, even though obviously I painted a fairly high level, Jason, I've taught beginners for years, and I love to teach beginner and intermediate painters. So, I mean, yeah, when you have questions, just ask. If I don't answer them, like, everybody in chat will jump in, because we have a lot of good painters here who have been painting for a while and great Reaper fans. Reaper has a great community. Check out their Discord also. Can you drop a link to the Reaper Discord for Jason Quindy? If you're used to Discord, kind of a chat room type thing, Jason, but the Reaper community gathers on there, and they're like Reaper Challenge League, which is like just here are some challenges to like try your painting, try in your painting, and different models, different colors, tough stuff like that. It's fun, but yeah, the community is just great. Reaper's a great company. I've worked for it. I worked for Reaper on site at their HQ for 17 years, and then I moved out here to be with my guy out to the West Coast, and now I just do this stream for them. But I made the Master Series paint line. It was my job for many, many years, and if you have paint questions, I can answer them. So we're just going to get that highlight. Oh, and the last thing, Jason, if you, since you're a beginner or since you're coming back to the hobby, check out my YouTube, and Quindy will come up with a link with it, because she is a fantastic person who links all the stuffs, the link queen. But on my YouTube, which is Painting Big, 2 separate words, and she'll pop up the link in a second, but there you go. So it's the second one from the bottom is actually my YouTube, the CUTT link there. I have a whole series of videos on the fundamentals of miniature painting, which pretty much goes from really beginning stuff. Like it's all the stuff that I wish I would have known as a beginning painter. And I do a new video every month. They're between 8 and 20 minutes long. So it's quick stuff, but it's like how to get a smooth base coat, how to make your own washes, how to get better, control with your paint, stuff like that. So yeah, so that's also valuable. And if you give me a follow, I would be like super hearts, because I'm trying to build up to 1,000 people on my YouTubes as far as followers. All right, so we've got that. Now we need to do this little one. I've got to get the edge here. You can see how I've started it. Yeah, we're cool. If anything, Reaper people are over-friendly. Like, I feel like we are the golden retriever of the hobby. Where we're like, you're new? We would love to help you. Yeah, so just, tell us all yeah, it's all right. Back off. I need space. I mean, we don't jump up on you and get you all muddy with our muddy paws, but you know, it gets close sometimes. It gets close. But yeah, we're in general, the Reaper Discord and all that are a great resource for, like, if you're looking for feedback or you're not sure because you're getting a weird result and you want to know how to fix it. Everybody's really welcoming and friendly and supportive. Is cool. A disturbingly high percentage of your projects are cat related. Kariniko, a disturbingly high percentage of my projects are about to be puppy related once I get the little fuzzball. The tiny fuzzball will come, and then, oh my gosh, it's on. But yeah, the other thing I would say, actually, Jason, since you're trying to build good motor coordination, I'll actually share this. So obviously, a lot of things that people will tell you if you're trying to control your brush better is to anchor your hands on the same thing. You can also anchor them on each other. You can anchor them, you know, if you sit back, if you're like reclining a lot. I don't know what kind of recuperation you're doing, but if you're doing a lot of bed rest, you could, you know, anchor them on your sides of your chest. But that's number one, of course. But the second one for fine motor that I find is really, really important is to move the model instead of your brush around. So like if I am trying to paint this area, great. But then when I need to paint this area, instead of doing this, I will move the model around and keep my brush at the same angle. So move the model around to paint different parts of the model. Do the same brush stroke as close as you can with like every brush stroke. So I vary it. Usually I have like a 90-degree arc or a little bit smaller that I vary it in. Once you've got that down, you should notice that even when you're rebuilding fine motor, you should notice that that helps, because essentially you're building your fine motor at that point, right? You're building your muscle memory because you're always doing the same brush stroke. And so, yeah, put your model, I don't have him on one right now, but usually I want my models on just a cheap block. You can get these at Hobby Lobby or wherever, right? The wooden blocks. You can order them on Amazon too. It's like $3 for a bag of like 6 or 12. It depends on the size. And then I just get poster putty and stick the model on top of that. And then you can just do this without touching the model. For this model, I just put this plastic base on, and for me, I'm comfortable holding that because I've just been doing it for so long. But if you're not comfortable doing that, definitely utilize a block. It'll be more comfortable for you to hold. You can also use things like empty pill bottles. I weight them with pennies or bad miniatures that I want to punish. Perfect. So you're good. Yeah, you're good. But yeah, try to remind yourself, and you may have to remind yourself a lot when you first start out. But just try to keep your brush stroke pretty consistent. Like I vary, you know, like this. Once I had this down, then I did also develop an overhand stroke. So sometimes you will see me switch to the overhand stroke, and you actually see me do it. Like if you really watch, like I'll be doing a lot of this, and then I will actually consciously change my hand position and do this, and then I will consciously move back. So it's not like I'm like contorting myself. It's that I have two set positions for my hand where my fine motor is developed. Gaston Corgi, gosh, this was something I did way back at the beginning. You could get close to it with the darker skin tone. I think I hand mixed this one. But you could get close to it with a darker bone skin tone. I forget which one it is. It used to be Barbarian, but we changed the name. I don't know that I even recorded. I bet this is just tanned skin with some ruddy leather added. I mean, when it comes down to it, Gaston, I work everything off of tan skin. Like, it is the master skin tone to the MSP range. Where did I put my tan skin? Did I eat it? Yeah, I did. So when you wonder, like, you can absolutely like start almost everything off of tan skin. And the best thing that you can do with tan skin, if you want a weathered model, like you're painting Vikings or ancient models or medieval models, is to add a reddish brown into the tan skin. That's how you get that darker tone that is on this model, that darker reddish tone, and then you highlight it with the tan skin. So I don't know the exact color I used on this one, though I wouldn't be surprised if it was ruddy leather, because that's what we used for the horse. But yeah, tan skin is your master paint. Like 9044. You can make so many different skin tone colors, and they all work. You can mix reddish browns into it. You can mix, you know, like just like muddy brown or russet brown into it to make it darker. You can add pale yellows or whites or off whites into it to make it lighter, and it makes a fantastic highlight color. It is like seriously 9044 tan skin ought to be the skin tone you always reach for. You can make it a rosy skin tone by adding a touch of red and white. You can do everything with it. It is you need if I was stuck on a desert island and I like wanted a skin tone with me, tan skin is the only skin tone I would bother with. How about that? Because, yeah. All right. But yeah, pretty much if I can't remember what skin tone I used, it's pretty much certain that I used tan skin and just added something to it. I have no idea if Bugman's Glow, I mean, I have no idea what that color is. But essentially, this is tan skin. And it should be showing up pretty well on your monitor. It is a medium light skin tone with a bit of warmth to it. It is slightly muted. Oh yeah, you could also do that. You could go back and watch the beginning videos for this model. Then I'll talk about it, because I think I did the skin first. But yeah, I'm not that familiar with some paint lines I am, but many of the current modern paint lines I'm not, just because there's so many of them. I'm not as familiar with everything as I used to be. All right, let's get this get the strap over this shoulder highlighted. But yeah, I can't speak as to whether some other paints from other lines are as versatile as tan skin, because I don't know what pigments are in them. I do know the pigments in tan skin, and so I know that I can riff on that. But most skin tones are pretty flexible. Until you get into a really dark skin tone where you might be dealing with a lot of black, and then you might have less good results trying to mix, just because black tends to be tends to make things a little harder. So just putting in those little dots there, stippling again. And once again, notice how I just moved the model and I'm using the same brush stroke, because I want to get at this shoulder and I want to get at it in a, and key to this is the fact that my hand is very comfortable in this position. So when you're trying to find a good brush position for your hand, just hold the brush naturally and find the most comfortable position and work with that. We don't have a triad Sage Mercy on that. We do have a dark skin triad in main core line, but actually the colors that I like for that are in Bones. Bones is the line that I created later, and so I felt like I did a better job of tackling skin tones in that line for these. So for dark skin, you've got Ebony and Ruddy. And this is more of the golden. Like when you see African skin tones or dark skin tones in the sun and they really go golden, that's more of this color. And if you want the really, really dark, almost with blue highlights or shadows, is the Ebony. I can show you examples of both. I even have them to hand, although pretty soon I won't have a Sphinx anymore. So this is the Ruddy. And it's shaded with ebony. And it's highlighted by adding in just a little bit of a paler yellow to build highlights. So this is Zari. And you can see how the color that gives you. Get back up there, Zari. And then, for the very dark skin, we have Sphinxie. Sphinxie was base coated with ebony flesh. And you can see how much darker her skin looks because of it. She was still highlighted up with ruddy flesh. You can see that color coming up on her cheekbones and everything. And then I did add a tiny bit of, I think, off-white to the ruddy flesh to bring up a little bit more highlight. But we've gotten compliments, lots of compliments from people on these colors. Because they're, although the dark skin triad works, it just wasn't, I felt like it wasn't realistic enough. And so I set out to make colors that I felt were more real. I looked at a lot of skin tones and kind of tried to engineer how I would do it. The first 54 paints, I was a very newbie paint line designer. And so I was pretty much copying what other people had done, what other lines had done, and trying to get some of the colors that I most liked from other paint lines into Master Series, while still giving a good variety of colors for the first 54. But we had no idea at that time that the paint line would eventually grow, that the Reaper paint lines would grow to over 500 colors. So by the time I went to formulate the Bones line, which would have been a couple years, I think, after the first Bones Kickstarter, I was a much more experienced. I'd had a decade of paint line design under my belt, and I knew much better. Plus, we had some new technology at our beck and call. So there are many approaches to black skin, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, you could do it a lot of different ways, but if you're just looking for a fairly simple solution, that's what those paints are for. All right, got a little bit of highlight on there. I think I want a lighter color even more. So I'm going to actually mix yet another highlight. I'm going to grab this and bring over some bleached linen into it. Yeah, Sphinxie is a good model. Sphinxie will go to her new home at ReaperCon. Yeah, we'll try just one. Since I'm transferring over just a couple brushfuls of this mixture instead of just adding white straight to this mixture, I'm going to go pretty low-key and just add one drop of bleached linen to that mix, because it's going to make a big impact on the color. And one drop of water to go with that drop of paint. Which really bleaches it out, but since I just want a tiny bit of edge leather highlight, this works. I mean, the best thing you can do, Sagebrush, when you're looking for, you know, catching a skin color that's specific, is to find a picture online of someone with that skin color and then do some swatches. Swatch colors alongside of it, figure out, you know, kind of, do I need it more reddish? Do I need it darker? Do I need it more golden? All that kind of thing. Kind of like do that kind of assessment. Even if you're new, even if that you don't normally paint mix, it'll help to train your eye a bit and set you up for success. Because skin tones can be persnickety, and sometimes they don't look right if you make just the slightest change. So learning to kind of analyze what you're missing with skin tones can be a very useful skill. So now I'm going to just gently hit a couple of more top highlights up on some of these. Yeah, and Rhonda will have different recipes than me, because Rhonda has done like portraiture type stuff. And the thing that Rhonda shows you is that you can do dark skin tones with a bunch of different colors and it will still carry off as dark. Portrait artists do this all the time and they blow your mind sometimes. I wonder if I still have that picture. when we went to a local art show, there was an African artist, and she had done an African portrait that was, let me get back to when that was. That was pretty darn impressive. It was obviously a dark skin tone, but it was like so different. And I am just going to look for that real quick. If I don't catch it fast, then I will continue on. But if I can find it, yep, there it is. Obviously an African skin tone. But look at the colors that she's using to convey that information. You have purples, you have teals, you have peaches, pinks, you've got yellow, you've got reddish brown, and yet when you zoom out, you get that skin tone. So if you go and watch Rhonda's stream on dark skin tones, like, she doesn't probably go this extreme, though I think in her PDF she did cover, one of her PDFs she did cover this kind of thing. But so you'd be surprised the colors you can use and still get a dark skin tone effect. Sometimes NetJam Jr. So I often, many of these models will go to Reaper after I stream, but it's not like part of my contract. Like I don't some of the models I keep, and some of the models, like I think I've sold one of them. And then, sometimes, like in this year, I'm actually gifting a couple of these models to the sculptors who sculpted the piece. So sometimes, yes, they do, and sometimes they don't. And often, unfortunately, when they do go to Ron at Reaper, we don't really see them pop up in the gallery because Reaper is just, so busy all the time that they often just, that kind of thing tends to fall through the cracks, until they can find somebody to make time to do it. So a lot of my stuff is up in the Reaper gallery as far as like the store. A lot of my stuff, my older paint jobs are in the store, but a lot of the newer stuff, sadly, probably isn't. I do take pictures of my newer stuff, and sometimes I put it on my website at paintingbig.net. But yeah, it depends. It depends. There we go. The video, Rhonda's video. Quindy has the link. We are Sagebrush. Yes, that is the Reaper way, is we are all super helpful. It's kind of like what we do. When we help people in the hobby, everybody wins. But yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure if I haven't actually checked to see if the last batch of models that I gave Ron at last year's ReaperCon are up in the store. But you can see a lot of the models in person if you ever visit Reaper HQ, which is in Denton, Texas. We do have a gallery. All the models that we've ever had painted for us in cases from the very first days onward. So that's a pretty cool thing to see if you ever get to Denton. I realized that I totally did not paint this little bronze bit on the bottom of the horse's belly, the girth. So I'm going to just block that in. There. But yeah, so I hope that eventually all my models do get up into the Reaper store, but it's very time dependent. Everybody at Reaper, even now that we've grown bigger than we used to be, when I started, it was very much everybody wore 5 different hats. But it still kind of is that way for the people who are in the office. Out on the production floor, it's a little bit different. You've got a job and you do it, although you still usually get trained in different positions. But for those of us who worked in different areas, who were in management or office types, we all like had so many different things to do. Reaper's a much smaller company than people realize. Yeah, now it's 12 different hats because I left Quindy. They had to distribute all my hats. Now I have a single hat. And I handed off all my other hats to everybody else. But it is. It is. Oh no, Quindy. Rhonda tries to grief you. Yeah, so I know well, because I mean I was there, and if I would have tried to find time out of my schedule to take photos for the store of painted minis, I wouldn't have been able to find the time with everything else I was doing. So because the paint department was pretty much like full time. Paint department is very busy, always. There we go. Boink. Now I feel like I need a couple more lines and dashes. Yeah, I've got so much stuff though in the Reaper gallery. I'm just like, yeah, you know, if it gets in there, it gets in there. Oh no, I didn't realize that Adrian's not there anymore. What happened? Did she go and find a different gig, or did she... What's up, Quindy? Are you able to talk about it? Because I missed that. Or is it just that she's out sick? Sorry. I am behind the times. I haven't caught a Reaper live in a while. And Adrian handled a lot of hats. A lot of hats. Like, that woman had hats stacked up on her noggin. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Well, I know when I was there, she was always talking about getting a position with a different company. And Reaper, one thing to remember also is that whatever, I don't know the circumstances either, but Reaper is always kind of discouraged, like both halves of a married couple, to be working for them because that puts all the eggs in one basket. So, yeah. Well, wherever Adrian is, I hope that she's doing well. You know, I think I've done that before, Pendrake. I don't remember. I mean, that's kind of the Reaper starter kit, the 11 color Reaper starter kit. But I mean, okay, so the thing about essential Reaper paint colors is that they're going to be different for everybody. Like, my list of essential paint colors is going to involve a bunch of the clears. But if people don't know how to mix, then that's not going to do them any good. Like for me, though, I can tell you that I typically take about 20 to 24 colors with me when I travel. However, I am also fearless with mixing. And if I am working on a specific project, it's more likely I'll take 20 colors and then an additional 4 colors that I could mix, but I don't want to have to keep mixing. So 4 to 6 colors specific to the project, I would say. And then 18 to 20 that are my foundational colors for just everything I do. But everybody's got different, like I use russet brown all the time, but not everybody does. Some people use black and brown. Some people use muddy brown if they need a dark brown, right? So, yeah, like Lord Zyphurius, those 3 are not on my list. I wouldn't take those with me. So there, you have illustrated my point perfectly. But these days, I'll tell you, actually, most of the colors I take with me, Well, actually, I was about to say War Shadow. If you just go to the artist equivalents, like most of the colors that I bring with me are artist paint equivalents now. Like the basic colors that you need to mix, like a naphthol red and, you know, a cobalt blue or whatever, or ultramarine blue. See, and I don't usually even bring pure black with me. Yeah, rich leather's on my list. Obviously, since I use it all the time. Yeah, see, and I don't bring gold. Golden blonde is not one of the colors that I would bring with me. Because I would use, like, if I wanted something like that, I would use NMM gold highlight. But that's what I mean, is there's so many colors, like, that everybody's got a different one. I'll make a note, and maybe I can do a PDF on that next month for Patreon. It'll work well with Rhonda's whole traveling stuff that she's been posting. But essentially you want colors that are mixable. Like colors that are, if not pure pigments, are close. Yeah, and see, Volcano isn't on there either because I can mix a Volcano. It's unless I was painting a model, like if the model that I bring, because I bring usually one model and a setup on vacation with me, just for something to do in the evenings. And if Volcano Brown was a key color on that model, then I would bring Volcano Brown with me. Yeah, I don't ever bring black for mixing. I tend to use just normal, like dark blues or whatever, if I need to. I mix my blacks most of the time. The only time I use pure black, guys, literally the only time I use it is when I'm painting the edge of a base. Like, that's it. Or on Centaur here. I don't remember if we mixed that black or not. But I might have used it on his main. Maybe. But that would be like an exception. Like, normally I wouldn't reach for it. Because I mix my black. Usually I either use walnut and blue liner, or I use brown liner and blue liner, or I use walnut and ultramarine shadow. And right there, you've got 4 of the colors that I always bring with me on vacation. Ta-da. And you guys should have known brown liner and walnut anyway, and blue liner. I'll forgive you for not thinking of ultramarine shadow. Yeah, that's what I said a minute ago, Twitch Dome. Rhonda did series on this. But the colors you bring are going to be very personal to you and the project that you're working on. But yeah, I mean, rich leather, walnut brown, brown liner, blue liner, ultramarine shadow, or cyan blue, actually, either one. Sometimes it'll be ultramarine, sometimes it'll be cyan, and it depends on how much blue is on the model and if I need a dark blue. There we go. Quindy's got Rhonda's video there. Alright, I think we've got all those leather straps. Now, speaking of black, we've got this black leather strap to do. I am going to do walnut ultramarine. So, speaking of mixing black... I use near black colors, so I cheat. I don't use pure black ever, but walnut has a ton of black pigment in it. So I use walnut as my black most of the time. Because I don't like the dead feel that regular black brings unless I'm... if I'm using black, what you'll notice is I counteract the fact that I'm using black by using blue in the highlights. So that it is not just a flat black and completely uninteresting. So 2 drops of walnut. Let's go... 3 drops of walnut. 1 drop of ultramarine shadow. Oh, my ultramarine needs a pokey tool. But yeah, at some point I just like, I realized that I liked mixing my darks and making them work with the project just like any other color. And the more I looked at paintings and noticed that the blacks were actually not black at all, but they still conveyed that, you know, that feel. What are you doing? Ultramarine, what are you doing? Why are you having problems? Stop. You're still a full bottle. Blurk. But yeah, if you go to art galleries or museums or art shows or any sort of thing, look at how people do black. It's very instructive, and it's something you can convey and transfer over to miniatures. Alrighty. So essentially what I've done here is I've taken my walnut brown and I've added a bit of blue to it. The blue pigment is going to neutralize the brown. This can give me a little bit of a purplish shade. To find out what I've got, I can carry it over with a little water. But as you can see, that's pretty black at this point. Oh, they did a dragon head. Well, good. We can call it the Painting Big Pokey Tool, even if it's not. Haha, they flayed into my hands. All right, I'm going to grab some off-white again, and I'm going to mix up a highlight for this. Then we're really going to see. Yeah, see, Quindy, all I had to do was wait, and they would make a dragon Pokey Tool eventually, and then I could claim that it was mine. Absolutely mine. Ah! Big paint booger. Drop a drop of white in there. Of course it is, because dragons. I look forward to seeing it. Or I look forward to David stealing one from ReaperCon for me. Alrighty. And I want one more highlight. So I usually will mix a succession of 3. I'll mix a triad. Often I will mix a pentad, but for doing quick highlights, it's usually a triad. David is going to have like such a huge to-do list going to ReaperCon without me that he's never going to want to do it again. You see my evil plan? Like, I'm gonna totally load him down with models to bring to my friends because I can't be there. And then I'm going to, like, you know, give him a list of things that he needs to get for me when he's there. Like, he'll never want to go again without me. This is the goal, guys. He's like, I'm never again. Like, if our roles were reversed, he'd be like, I don't know if I need anything, you know. But me, I'm like, here's your list to do. Here's your list of people to talk to. Here's your list of stuff to get for me. Oh, man. Yep, he's just going to want out after this one. I have a little ring to do. A little, we'll make it steel. Since I have this gray mixed up. You know a guy? All right. I figured, Julie. So when David brings you the Sphinx, we'll trade you for a Pokey Tool, okay? And tell him you might have to give him 2 because otherwise he's going to want to keep it and not give it to me. All right, so I'm just using my gray that I've got here to use as a black highlight. I'm using that to kind of create a little bit of NMM steel for this ring. Any gray can do, as long as you've got, like, you know, something that's fairly complex. Meaning it's not just black and white. All right. But yeah, I'm sad I'm missing Reaper Con. I mean, my wallet is probably happy, especially after this puppy trip, man. I do not want to even tell you guys how much this puppy trip is costing me. It's my Reaper Con trip, pretty much. It's yeah, serious. All to get a tiny puppy. Tiny puppy better be the best puppy ever. She's gonna be so expensive. All right, so I'm gonna again do stippling. Now this has sculpted like a few lines in it, so it's not just a flat strap. So we're just gonna accentuate that texture. Now once again, I'm going to be using stippling. And I'll fade that stippling out as I go underneath the belly because that's all in shadow. So I really only need to like bring out some detail here. Yeah. Oh, if there's a dragon pokey tool, I'm happy, crows. It's close enough. It's essentially I will make it the official painting big pokey tool. I'm happy with that. Yeah, Pendrick, you missed me talking about all the differences in the puppy personalities earlier. We're into the phase where there really isn't a lot of Pupdate content because Bridget is having so much work. Remember also that while Bridget is raising this litter, she's working her regular job in cybersecurity. So even though she can work remotely, so she has she's able to make little time for the puppies throughout the day, she still has her real job to work. So as the puppies get bigger and a lot more cleaning and work intensive, there are fewer pup dates. But maybe I can find something, so I'll go look. She sent me a video yesterday. So we'll get that all. So now we've brought out that girth seam. We just like have those, the stippling kind of fade away as it goes underneath. You can bring it all the way down if you want. There's a little suggestion of it. There. Sweet. Yeah, we'll do a real quick, since I started late, we'll do a real quick pup date. Let me see what I got. Come here, pup dates. Let's see here. Do we have a new pup date? Whoa, weird. Huh. Okay, well that's not going. Facebook is sending me weird messages. Let's see here. Pup date. I think I have one video. If I can get to it. All right. This is Puppy Vex exploring the backyard with Bridget yesterday. Pup date. So that's my favorite. Running around, being all silly. Oop. She's just exploring. So she's out with Bridget by herself. Yes, making sure the pool man did everything right. And she's just exploring. She found a pile of sticks. She's just hanging out though. She's like, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are you doing, human? She's like, so there you go. The pup date I can find. She's going to be a little handful is what she's going to be. Oh, a week to get the part for the AC. Oh, yuck. War Shadow. Okay, so the thing about parvovirus, in my experience, is that, and I've talked to vets about this more than one, and the vets are like, well, for one thing, sunlight kills parvo. So going outside to spaces with your puppy is going to be pretty fine. Second, Bridget did a tighter panel on her puppies, so she knows that they still have the mom's immunity. So that also is good because they get that from her milk, and then that slowly wears off. Third, the way that vets and dog trainers have said it to me is we see far more under-socialized dogs because the owners were afraid of parvo, and now those dogs have behavior problems, than we see puppies with actual parvo. Like, a case of parvo is really rare, but a case of an unsocialized dog because they didn't want to take the puppy outside or do anything with it for 16 weeks, that's a lot bigger problem. So that's how it's been put to me. And I'm kind of with that. Like, having raised all our dogs, what we do is we just make sure that it's outside in areas that have gotten sunlight. And I've never had a puppy get parvo, and we usually start socializing our puppies at like 9 or 10 weeks after the first set of shots. Yes. So, but yeah, Bridget did do a tighter panel on her puppies, so she knows that they still have Zammy's immunities. They're all pretty at high levels. She sent me the document from the vet. But yeah, sunlight areas that get a lot of sun are usually okay. If I take the puppy to someplace like a PetSmart, then I'm usually putting them in the shopping cart, and I'm gonna sterilize that shopping cart with a disinfectant wipe and put down a blanket before I do. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely being conscientious about it. You don't want your puppy to get sick for sure, but like, I was thinking about it the other day because we were going to take this puppy all over the place. Like, David's office finally opened up for guests, so that means the puppy can visit him at work. And I was thinking about that, and I'm just like, you know what? The socialization is going to be worth it. I don't think the risk is too bad. We shall see. It's everybody's individual opinion. The important thing is that your pup gets good socialization experiences before that window closes, and that you keep them safe in line with what what you feel okay with, right? Just like everything else, everybody's different. I may have a higher risk tolerance because I've raised so many of them at this point and never had an issue. Weirdly, the only puppy litter that I know that got parvo got it from somebody visiting the litter. All right. Yeah, that puppy is my favorite, Big Apple. That's Vex. She's a cutie. She's also going to be a handful. She's a very, she's going to be trying to twist her new owners around her little paw is what she's going to be doing. Hey, Ultra Squid. Got very hot by the end of it. Yeah, I bet. You guys must have been melting. I mean, even when you've got heat tolerance, right, there are limits. All right, so we've gotten our leather more or less all stippled in. I just need to do a little spot highlight on the little rings there. So let's do that, and then this model is ready for basing next time. And I'll have to do some green work. Maybe I don't know. I kind of want to do the green work beforehand and then concentrate on other basing stuff. Yeah, parvo is highly contagious. This is true. But it does, ultraviolet light does kill it, so. I really want this puppy to be able to go everywhere with us. So we definitely are going to be taking her to the ocean within the first couple weeks of getting her so that she can experience big water. And stuff like that. And I've got a lot of parks around here that I have planned. A lot of outdoor places. Take her to the local pet stores too, and maybe to Home Depot if the local store is okay with it. But I'll be putting her in a shopping cart. So that she doesn't get down on the floors. But yeah. All right. A little bit of spot highlights here on the metal. You don't need very much. And then after we do this, we'll call it, guys. I know I was late getting online because of my doctor appointments, so can go just a little late today. So a little bit of highlighting with the gray, and then I'm going to pop a white highlight in there. The other thing about Parvo is it's they can treat it a lot more effectively now than they could like back in the 80s. Like back in the 80s, if you got it, it might be a death sentence, and now it's still hard, but it's much easier to kind of control, which is a relief. Because even with your best efforts, like I said, Deb's litter caught it because just one of the people who came over to socialize the puppies had tracked it in on her shoes and not even realized that she'd been anywhere that a dog that was affected. Then later, that person talked to her veterinarian and found out that her veterinarian was seeing a spike in parvo cases, and she had taken her dog in for something different and brought it out. So you just don't know. There we go, a little bit of a highlight. Yeah, most Home Depots and Lowe's are dog friendly, and they're pretty good places to go. Yeah, it's good to always ask, and especially when they're little. Like I may just bring some hand sanitizer with me, because that can be a good idea as well. When you raise a litter of puppies, you always have people. When you've got people over to socialize, if you are smart these days, we usually say shoes off, hands washed, and fresh clothing, like freshly laundered clothing, if you're going to visit. When I had my last 2 litters, just to lower the risk. All right, and a little bit of the little pinpoint on the little button. Yay! Sweet. So now all the little leather bits have highlights and weathering. Oh, I missed a spot. We'll do that quick. Yeah, there's some really nice huskies out there. It's not the breed for me because of the energy level, but there's some nice dogs out there. We had a husky puppy named Grace at our old apartment complex. She was a sweetheart. Alrighty, a little bit of stippling on the edges of the strap here. A couple of little lines, dashes. Show the cracking. There we go. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. The big thing for me is going to be like that trip home where we're going to go through all sorts of strange places. That's 3-day road trip with baby puppy. That's going to be the stressful one for me. All right. I think that's good. Maybe a little tiny more highlight up here. Whew. And then once I have the puppy home, then I need to start worrying about my wedding. One catastrophe at a time, please. Cool. But Mom, that's my friend. Yeah, that's the problem with big puppies, right? I meant to ask Bridget what the puppies weighed, and I didn't remember to ask her that last night. I'll ask her this morning. Have a weight update on how monstrous these puppies are getting, because they are getting pretty big. Pretty big puppies. All right, guys. So what we did today, man, we talked about a lot of stuff. Random stuff. Like how you should always keep your first models when you're starting new in the hobby, because it gives you a point to see how far you've gone. And we talked about skin tones. We talked about how Anne does not have a list of like her top 20 travel colors because it depends, and how that's a very individual choice. And then we talked about leather and doing weathering on leather, and yeah, we did stuff. We have a Centaur. Roar, roar. He doesn't really say roar because he's not really a roar. All right. Hopefully you will get a crow's nest later today, everybody. Thanks for hanging around, even though I started late. And thanks for hanging around with me since we went late. And tomorrow is, hey, the one model that we're not close to finishing. Wizard guy. Wizard dude. His purple's really coming along. I was working on his blocking in the gold before. So we'll start to, I need to do more purple too. So we may do a lot more purple. But yeah, so we're getting there. We're slowly blocking in our wizard guy. Oh, and that's right. We did the wash to show how to bring out the detail on the pouch too. So see you tomorrow, everybody. And we'll talk to you later.